You may have called your mother mom or mommy or something else, some variation of that. You may have called your father dad or daddy or pop. Once in a while I would meet people my age who would call their parents by their first names. And I always thought that sounded odd to call your dad, hey Joe, or your mom Nancy or something. It sounds distant, I think, and somewhat disrespectful. If I called my mother Diane, she would have reminded me by saying, I'm your mother. And she didn't say that because she demanded respect from me, but because saying mom or dad signifies a deeper relationship. It's a relationship based on love. On the flip side, imagine how she would have responded if I asked her to call me Msgr. Oh boy, she would have backhanded me across the room. She could still call me Perry, of course, because that signifies the relationship we have. She gave birth to me. She gave me that name. And when she said Perry, I knew that it came from a heart that was filled with love. Today, we hear Jesus teaching how to pray, teaching his disciples how to pray. And in that prayer, he tells them to call God Father. As you probably know, the Hebrew word for father is Abba, which really means daddy. If you've ever been to Israel, you might actually hear a child call his or her father Abba and say it out loud, and you could hear it, and it's an amazing thing. It's a beautiful word which suggests love and intimacy. It's a word which expresses a relationship. Using the word Abba to address God probably sounded a bit scandalous to the people in Jesus' day. That's because they were taught to address God in a more formal way. The common word for God was Adonai, which means Lord. It's very formal, and it kind of suggests that God is like royalty, who is above the rest of us. God was someone to be honored at a distance. But Abba indicates that God is much closer to us and loves us as his own children. Abba suggests that God is a loving parent whom we can call out to at any time. It's an expression of our close relationship with God, who knows us through and through. That's why Jesus says that in our prayer, we can use the word Father, because that is who God is. Now, I might go a bit further. When I was a kid growing up in Catholic school, we never used the name Jesus in a familiar way. The only people who prayed by saying Jesus, Jesus were Protestants and Charismatics. That's the only ones. We were taught to refer to Jesus as Christ, right? Again, there's nothing wrong with that, except that Christ is not a name. It's a title. It means the anointed one, the Messiah. Today, many people feel free to use the name Jesus in a personal way. After all, that's the name that God gave his Son. And using a person's familiar name can suggest friendship and familiarity. So however you choose to address our deity, when you pray, it's up to you. What is important is that we pray. The Lord's Prayer is the traditional prayer common to all Christians. It's the only time Jesus actually taught anybody how to pray, what to say. And for that reason, it's often called the perfect prayer. So much so that it contains all the essentials of what we need to be communicating with God about: praise, thanksgiving, petition, forgiveness. And even though we pray it every day at Mass, it's good to pray it on our own and to reflect on the words that we are speaking. That might be a good exercise for Lent as we seek to foster a deeper relationship with our Father.